This one came out of a Dance Dance Revolution pad. Someone had given me, somewhere along the way, a plastic bag style Dance Dance Revolution pad. And if you've ever played DDR, you know that those are just like, if you've attained any level of skill, I'm not saying I'm a skilled individual at DDR, but I would say that I'm to the level where I cannot play on a plastic bag. Those pads are just garbage. You can't feel where the arrows are at all while you're looking at the screen. So you could be moving, forward or backward on the pad and not know it. Plus they walk around the floor all over the place. They don't stay in place at all. So if you're starting to get kind of intense about it, it's going to slowly, usually they rotate, which is really awkward when you end the song and you're 45 degrees off where you started. Oh, that was ridiculous. But anyway, this was the board that interfaced with the, basically this Dance Dance Revolution pad had, I think, 3 layers in it, 3 major layers, like 5, I guess. There was the plastic on the top that was just decorative. The next layer down was a plastic substrate. It was just like basically a piece of, I want to say it was sort of like it was like a cling wrap, but not really. It didn't cling. It was just a a flexible plastic sheet, and it had conductive material printed onto it that would come up to the pads on here. And then the next layer below it was a spongy, it was like a sponge, basically, that would retain its shape, but when you'd step on it, you could squish it down. And then around each conductive pad, around each spot where you're supposed to be able to step and have it register, they would cut holes in that sponge. Then the next layer down was another one like the second one from the top, where it was like just a piece of plastic that had conductive material printed onto it. And so when you would step on that pad, you would squish the sponge that's in between the 2 layers and squish the conductive pieces together, and that's how it would register your button press, your step on the pad. And of course the bottom one, in case you guys are counting how many layers I'm talking about, the bottom one was just like a rubber that was meant to keep the pad sort of in place on the floor, but it didn't have enough weight to bother, so it walked around like none other anyway. But as you can see on this board, we'll focus it so you can. There you go. These are all labeled up here, and on the back, what they're labeling is each of the conductive pads. Each of these black spots is a spot where it was conductive, and that would interface with one of either the top or the bottom layer that had the conductive stuff printed onto it. And so, select, I'm having a hard time reading upside down, B and down, D, let's see, left, down, ground. So that was, I think it's if you touch ground to any one of these out here, it would register that. I can't remember, why are there two rights? B and D. B and D up here too. I'm sure if I thought about it for a minute, I would figure it out. But then on the other end of this board is a PS2 connector. This would plug into your PS2. Here's a chip on board, I think they call that, where they take... It's just like a chip, like you picture a chip with the pins on it, except that the chip that you see with the pins on it is actually a plastic package that has the actual chip inside of it. They've put just for convenience sake and for handling's sake, they've put a plastic package around the actual chip that has the circuitry on it so that you can, handle it, put it down into a circuit. But if you're making a whole, pile of things and you want to make them very cheaply, this is how you do it. You take the actual chip itself, you set it down on your board, you run bond wires from each of the pads inside of it where the pins would be if you had a package. Run those bond wires out to each of the traces that you see around here, solder them onto there, and then you just glob epoxy on top of here, which cures and hardens, and so you just see these little blobs here. There's a chip underneath there, and that's what does the translation in between these contacts and the PlayStation 2 protocol. What I actually did with this one was I tore this controller board out, and, well, obviously, seeing as you see it in front of you, and I wanted to interface it to the computer, but I didn't have any money, so I did not buy a USB to PS2 adapter. Those do exist, and they're not terribly expensive or rare or anything like that, but I just was, me, and perhaps broke. I can't remember. I wasn't for a while, but now I am. I make more money than I ever have in my life, and I'm broke. Oh well, that's alright. Rich where it counts. But I wanted to interface that pad to the PC. So what I did was I took a keyboard, like a physical, keyboard, opened it up, cut its controller off that, converts the keystrokes, because it's remarkably similar to the Dance Dance Revolution pad. When you press one of these, it connects two wires together, which are on a controller inside of here that knows how to talk to the computer over this. This also is coincidentally PS2, but it's a different type of PS2. It's not PlayStation 2. I don't know what it stands for, but same concept. So I wired the conductive bits that touch inside the Dance Dance Revolution pad to different wires on here, trying to simulate up and down and left and right arrows when I would step on the pad. And interestingly enough, it kind of worked a little bit, but it wasn't just pressing these up and down and left and right, it was also pressing other keys, and I'm not really sure why. I was given the hint that you'll have, not only do you have multiple combinations of pins that get shorted together on the controller inside of a keyboard, because of course it has many, many, many keys inside of here, but you will have combinations that are shared. Maybe, for instance, I don't know which ones are which, but when you press this one, it'll be a dead short between two pins on the controller. But maybe if you press the V key, it will be medium resistance between the two pins. It'll still be connecting the two, but it'll be a higher resistance than if you press the up key. That was one of the theories that I think I've read up on a little bit since then. So perhaps the arrow keys were shared with another area of the keyboard. The only reason I know this is because there's apparently in Stepmania, that's the PC Dance Dance Revolution open source game. Apparently in Stepmania, there's a keyboard shortcut to take a screenshot, because I kept hearing it go click, click, like a camera while I was dancing. And I have no idea what the keyboard combination to do that is, which button you'd have to press to do that, but I found it. So that was, I called that one off pretty quickly. It wasn't very usable. And maybe within that year, I went out and bought a actual USB Red Octane brand, $75 foam-filled, and it had like these foam puzzle pieces that would go inside of it, dance pad. It had raised arrows on it, so you could actually dance and feel where the edges of the arrows are instead of looking down at your feet. And then it had adapters so that you could plug it into the PlayStation 2, or you could plug it into USB, or you could plug it into the Xbox, the original Xbox, way back when. those were USB as well, but it was in a funky connector. So, yeah, that's another story there for you. All of that's in the trash except for this PlayStation 2 component of that original dance pad. This is probably trash too, but again, I'm a pack rat, so I think I'm going to hang on to it, just in case.